No intro needed, let's just get started. So with this crash course, the first thing I'm going to tell you guys is how you can cross a 9 or a 10, because that's what most people need for their immigration. So if you are trying to get an 8, you can get an 8 with perfect English, no grammar mistakes, no spelling mistakes, phenomenal writing and speaking, you will get an 8. But everybody will get an 8. Who gets a 9? People who get a 9, 10, 11, 12, these are the kinds of people who go above average. What I mean is, first, let me talk about vocabulary. This is going to be useful for your writing and speaking, and we're going to cover writing and speaking in more detail at the end of this video. So when you do vocab, any basic words like good, bad, sad, happy, they are right away going to bring you below a 9, because even though they're correct English words, they're not fancy enough for the examiner. So instead of good, you want to say magnificent, terrific, spectacular, excellent. Instead of bad, you want to say harmful, detrimental, deleterious. Instead of tiny, you want to say, instead of small, you want to say tiny, insignificant, maybe superficial if the thing is not about size, but it's about the importance, it's insignificant, you can say it is superficial. So you see where I'm going at with this. When you have vocabulary which is too basic, you will get a basic mark. Every word you have should be upgraded. The best way you can do this at home is when you are practicing writing, proofread it. When you're doing speaking, record it and listen to it. When you do, you will see the words that you are using that are very common, and just go to thesaurus.com, type in those words, see the synonyms which are fancy and unique, they're less often used. Use those ones, because those are what examiners are looking for to give you an advanced mark, and you want to memorize those words. Do the writing and speaking again and see if you're actually using those words. If not, try again. Okay, phrasal verbs are also important. So what we need to understand is vocabulary is not only in writing and speaking for your average, above average vocab. That's not the marking criteria only. It is also the range of vocab. So that means the different words and phrases you can put in there. Now, a lot of people don't use phrasal verbs, but you should. So phrasal verbs are things like give up, come across, hold up, run into. Combination of words, it could be in even 3-word combinations too. The best way to learn phrasal verbs is to go on the link in the description. There's also a vocabulary link in the description. Check those out. You want to learn 10 of each per day. And if you have at least 200, 300 of phrasal verbs, 200, 300 new vocabulary words that you have learned, you'll be ready for this exam. Another thing, talking about the range of vocab, is making sure you use adverbs. A lot of people don't use adverbs like the lees, quickly, slowly, gradually. Make sure you use them. The more lees you use, the more different you will be from other people, because trust me, other people don't use lees. Most people just use nouns and verbs, and sometimes not even adjectives. So use lees as much as possible. For example, you're making a sentence saying that we want this park to be built. Just say we want this park to be built efficiently, quickly. Adding that gives you a range of vocabulary as well, giving you more marks there. Now, the final thing I'm going to talk about in terms of having those good words and range of words is complex sentences. If you want a good list of complex sentences, guess what? Again, in the description, you actually have a list of words that will start your complex sentences. Complex sentences are things like due to, considering, based on. You start your sentences with these words or phrases, and what this does is it breaks the sentence into 2 parts. So if I say based on at the start of the sentence, I'm going to say based on the career qualifications I have, comma, I can be a great teacher. Now, I can also use this in speaking without the comma, of course. And what I've done is broken a sentence into 2 parts, and that is what is a complex sentence, which is what examiners prefer. You don't want to overdo it, but you want to include at least 2 to 3 of your complex sentences in task 1 and in task 2 of your writing. You want to do it at least once in every speaking question. The more you do it this way, according to these parameters, you will be getting the mark for complex sentences as well. So now that I have debunked how the crossing 9 thing works, let's go on to other modules, but please remember to check all these things out in the description, because without having advanced words and without being unique, basically you can never get a 9. Now, let's talk about listening. In listening, the key thing among all the modules is taking notes. Parts 1 to 3, maybe not so much. You don't want to take too many notes there, because you can listen, and that is easy. It's not very long. You can still catch up, but from parts 4, 5, and 6, you want to take notes. Now, when we talk about parts 4 and 6, these parts are long and they're fast. You cannot take notes when they're speaking. You cannot remember everything. So you want to do a combination of things. So you want to first put some things in your mind, whatever you can, whatever you cannot write down. Second is you want to write down as much as you can humanly possible, and just practice your writing speed at home as well, because you will be given a pen and paper. You want to practice writing fast because listening is fast, okay? The next thing is drawing pictures. So for example, this picture you see on your screen is from a part 4 that was done, and what was being said was there's a very big container holding almost 2 tons of water on top of a building which is 500 meters on top of this garden that contains grass and some trees. But because this container tilted, it dropped all the water on the ground, creating a loud noise. Now imagine me writing all that detail. It's going to take me forever, but by drawing this picture, as you can see on your screen, I was able to save all this time and just say everything much quicker. So sometimes you can draw pictures, you can write notes and remember some of the content. That way you can catch up with everything that is being said, and when the time comes to answer those questions, you will remember the whole conversation. Part 5, I'm gonna say make columns. Under each column, write down what each person is saying. That way, when the question comes as to what did this person say, or what did the person on the left say, or what did the guy say, you know exactly who said what by making the columns. One other thing you will see on this screen, this was a sample of one part 5, is how there are arrows, and these arrows show how one person responded to another. So Bob started the conversation in the cake company when he was saying that cakes are unhealthy. He was talking about that. I couldn't write everything. Of course, you cannot write everything, just get the main gist of it. Now Hamilton responds and says, well, how can we get the messaging across? How can we make sure that people still buy the product? Then Bob responded, then Roy responded, and so on. So I know how the flow of conversation was by making it into columns and by putting arrows showing who said what, because many times the question is, how did this person respond to the other person? So by having this structure, you will know exactly what the answer is going to be. You would also know the sequence of questions, because usually in listening, questions are in sequence. The first few questions are going to be related to the first part of the conversation and vice versa. Hence, if you have the sequence like this, you will be able to know how to answer the questions. Let's talk about reading. So reading, first I'm going to go over all 4 parts, then I'm going to talk about some really important strategies that you would need for the overall reading exam. Reading part 1, it's the easiest one. Now in the multiple choice questions, make sure you read the questions only, then go up in the passage, find the answer in the passage, then look at the options in this sequence, okay? Do not look at the options and go in the passage, because 3 of the options are incorrect, obviously, out of the 4, and you would be confusing yourself if you do that. So always look at the question first, go in the passage, then look at the options, find an answer. When you go to the second section of part 1 of reading, which is the response letter, you don't need to go up and down between the first letter and the response letter. At that point, you would have read the whole passage, right? Because you would have, let's say, 5 or 6 multiple choice questions before the response letter. So at this point, you have a good idea of what this whole passage is about. Just use your knowledge and common sense and look at the tone of sentence, look at what option fits well, and based on the story that you remember, put in that option. So what I'm telling you here is use educated guesswork and put in the correct answer, because most people run out of time here. It's a lot of content, it's easy, but you don't have much time. So use your guesswork. Mostly what happens is people get everything right 90% of the times, because they already have read the whole previous passage. Now it's just a point of guessing how the response is going to be. But if you do have extra time, of course you can go up in the previous passage and verify the answers. But you don't mostly have time. So that's why it's important to use educated guesses in the response letter. When you go to part 4, let's talk about part 4 because it's very similar to part 1. Same thing, the multiple choice questions, read the question first, go in the passage, find the answer, then come back and look at the options. When you see the second part of the part 4, same thing again, you want to make educated guesses because now it's going to be a response from someone. So you want to see how they would respond based on what you just read and make educated guesses instead of going up and down, because going up and down, you don't have that much time. If you have time, you can go ahead and do that. One key thing to remember in part 4 is this is an argument. Usually there are 2 or 3 people arguing. think of this as a debate, okay? If you put yourself in the debate, you will be able to understand it way better. Because look, let me tell you about listening. When you're talking to friends, do you take notes? No, right? But you're able to relate, you're able to answer, you know everything that happened in the conversation because you're a part of it. In CELPIP listening, we take notes because we're not a part of the conversation. But in reading, what you can do is feel like you're a part of the conversation. In part 4, there's going to be one person's opinion, another person's opinion, and you can side with one of them. So you can feel like you agree with this guy or don't agree with this guy, and that way will help you understand the passage more. It will make you feel like you have an opinion, and then when the other person responds in the response section of part 4, you would know how to answer that, how that person's response is going to be, and that will help you answering the questions using this psychology. Part 2 of reading, you want to look at the picture first. The picture will only take you 1 or 2 minutes to look at. It's not much, hence you don't have to look at questions here first. Look at the picture, understand it, then answer the questions. That's all I'm going to say here. It's not a very difficult part. When you come to part 3, you have to match the paragraphs with the questions. Now all you do is look at every question. Read every question first. What this does is it helps you get the keywords in your head. Okay, so now you have all the keywords in your head. Now you go in paragraph A. Read paragraph A. Your mind will click. Your mind will say, all right, this keyword in paragraph A matches number 2. And this other keyword in paragraph A matches number 8. So the answer of paragraph A is 2 and 8. You go to paragraph B, same thing, and so on. So by reading the questions first, your keywords in your head will always click when you attempt to read the paragraphs. That'll help you find the answers faster. One other cautionary thing here is to make sure you paraphrase the keywords while you are reading the questions, because a keyword in the question, for example, economy, in the passage might be money, finance, banks. It could even be commercial, right? But as long as you have a vision in your head, that it's not just economy that I'm looking for something related to economy. When you look at the word money, your mind will click and you'll be like, all right, this matches that question. Okay, in CELPIP reading, another thing, now that we're done with all the modules, is to understand with the concept. It's not like IELTS, it's not like finding keywords and just finding the answer. It is about understanding. It is interpretive. So they ask, how does this person feel? Or what is the idea behind this? Or what is the, like in the debate question in part 4, does this person feel angrily or happily towards the other person? When you have these interpretation questions, you just cannot read a few sentences and understand an answer. You want to understand the whole passage and understand what the feeling and intention behind it is. So a good way to do this is to practice reading at home. If you have CELPIP material, use that. If you don't, go to Guardian.com. They have free articles, some of the really good articles about excellent news topics. You can read those, and what I recommend our students always is read 2 sentences at a time. Stop, explain to yourself what you have read. Read the next 2, stop, explain to yourself, and so on. By doing this, you're able to help yourself understand and sharpen your interpretation abilities, and you're able to understand the passage in a way where you wouldn't just be plainly reading previously. So now you can do that at home, and now you can also use that in your exam, which is important for CELPIP reading. One other thing is the tough passages. You want to practice the tough parts. A lot of people go to IELTS academic reading and practice that because it helps you practice for CELPIP. The exam itself is much harder than the materials you buy, okay? Now, if you want to try a really difficult CELPIP reading test, link is in the description, made by HZad Education. We'll send it to you free of cost, no strings attached. You'll get the answers as well. It's the hardest reading passage I've ever tried. So if you're up for it, email me. The link is in the description. You will see the heading with that. Alrighty, so let's get to the good part. Writing and speaking is where most people lose marks. So let's talk about writing first, okay? The structure. Let's understand the structure for task 1. You want to have 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph in the informal letter or the formal letter is the intro. Last paragraph is the conclusion, and the 3 paragraphs in the middle would answer the 3 bullet points. Yes, you need to have 1 body per bullet point. So each body should have 2 sentences answering that bullet point. Basically, the 3 bodies will then have 6 sentences in total. The reason why we do this is to keep it organized, and also the 2 sentences per bullet will help you with the task response, because examiners usually say the question hasn't been fully answered. Now, if you give the examiner 2 sentences per question, 1 paragraph basically per bullet point, your task response will be perfect, okay? Do this format for formal and informal letters. And if you thought my explanation of the intro and conclusion was very shallow, well, here's the good part. The writing templates are in the description. Check those out. We have templates for task 1 and task 2. The templates are something you put in your writing and speaking, we'll talk about that, and that instantly gives you a boost on grammar, vocabulary, it's mistake proof, and it avoids thinking time. So the templates, for example, for task 1, when you start an informal letter, are something like, hopefully, you and your husband are doing well. My apologies for not being in touch, but I'm making up for it via this letter, at least I hope so. It has your semicolon, fancy punctuation, it has hopefully, an adverb, the adverb with ly. It is a mistake-proof sentence with a different variety. It's not just saying, hey, how are you? It is unique compared to what other candidates will do. The conclusion of this will be, I'm hoping this letter finds you well. Do get back to me whenever you get a chance. Talk to you soon. Has your exclamation mark, which is needed for informal letters, and it is a fancier finish than just saying, thank you, looking forward to talking to you soon. And by the way, if you do say looking forward to talking to you soon in an informal letter, you lose marks because it is too formal. So you want to keep that distinction. But again, with the templates, you will be able to just copy paste. Don't do all the work, we'll do it for you. Look at the link. It has everything down here for task 2 as well as for the formal letter. All right, let's talk about task 2. There are too many confusions about task 2 because there are so many bad samples online, but I'll tell you the best way, this is where students score the best. If you have the structure, examiners will never complain about task response. They will never say he didn't or she didn't show the other side of the argument. Examiners will be very happy with you. Trust me on this. This is how our students get good marks. Once again, templates are in the link, okay? Check those out. You will have your intro and conclusion. You need 2 bodies only, okay? In the middle, you have 2 bodies. Body 1 is going to talk about your side, your opinion, and why you support it. Body 2 is going to talk about the other side. Just do that. Don't ask me why. Just do that, okay? When you don't do the other side, some examiners say you haven't explained the other side, you're not versatile enough. So make sure the other body is completely about the other side, not supporting it, but crapping on it, basically. You're gonna tell the examiner how the other side is terrible in body 2, and in body 1, why your opinion is amazing, all right? Again, check out the template. It also shows you how in the intro, you should start with the opinion, how in the conclusion, you should rephrase your opinion, and that is basically the structure of your task 2. Let's talk about speaking. Speaking, again, you have 8 templates. Link, guess what, is in the description. You have everything here, all materials, everything you need in the description. Just check it out. I'll go over one thing though, speaking part 1, because I can go over 8 parts. It's all written down. You can check it out. I also have a video of how to use these speaking samples. Check that out in the description as well. Now, by speaking templates, I mean things like sentences, structures, words and phrases that will help you get a structure and get your words in without really thinking, and also making sure those words are mistake-proof and examiner-approved. For example, part 1. When you give a suggestion, you can start by saying, hi Maria, hi Bob, whoever the person is, how are you? I heard that, and then you repeat the question here. I heard that you have been going through anxiety. I heard that you were looking for a new college, and then you would say, I have a few suggestions for you. Firstly, secondly, thirdly, go with 3 suggestions. Your 60 seconds would be 3 suggestions, rest, intro, and conclusion. Going to your conclusion, once you're done with the thirdly, you would say, I hope you take my suggestions seriously. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. This is all written in the template as the way I described it to you, and you have sample answers too. So just check it out. It's all in the description, and that'll help you out in speaking. More things I'm going to say about speaking, because here is where people really fail. Make sure you start right when the time starts. Don't delay, don't stall, please. Examiners know you're trying to pass the time, so make sure you start on time. Make sure you finish 5 seconds before the time. Target that. Trust me, you'll go way beyond that. All right, so finish on time. Clarity is important. Don't use ums or you knows, don't use fillers. Instead, use connectors. Furthermore, likewise, moreover, also make sure at the start of the lesson what I told you, using good vocabulary, complex sentences, using phrasal verbs, and also using lys actively, quickly, efficiently. The more lys you use, and the combination of these things you use will give you good marks on vocabulary and will help you advance your mark beyond a 9. Then simply follow the templates, use the structure there, use the words there, and you will do awesome. Finally, I'm going to say is even with all these descriptions, you have, although everything you need to be ready for your exam, you still don't know what your level is. You still need a teacher, a guide, a coach who can tell you where you stand right now. Well, we have a free assessment for you. Again, the link is in the description. You can just check out the email. The offer will say free trial session. Check it out. Claim that offer. You'll be getting a free assessment on your writing and speaking. Just see if you're ready for the exam. If you're not, we're going to be here to help. If you are ready, go ahead and do the exam with these tips. I hope this helped you a lot. And thank you for your time. Subscribe, like, and share. Talk soon. Take care.